Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and if you weren't already fed up with price hikes for gaming, well, unfortunately, we're starting to get word of yet another increase, specifically when it comes to Xbox, but there's also some potential that PlayStation could eventually follow as well. Yeah, now, the reason for all of this, though, is a bit surprising to some people. This isn't linked to inflation, tariffs, or overly inflated budgets, but rather something a little bit different. So make sure to stay tuned, and we're going to get into all of that, plus plenty more. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with the Analog 3D. Reviews went up last week, and everybody seems to be raving about just how good this console is. Now, I'm still waiting for mine, so I can't say firsthand yet, but it's being described as the absolute best way to play Nintendo 64 games on your modern 4K TV. The thing about those reviews, though, is that at the time that they went up, it didn't really matter because, well, Analog didn't actually have any units up for sale. However, that changed this morning when more orders went live, though, unfortunately, it sold out within minutes. Now, if you watched last week's video, I did say to be up bright and early, kind of be ready for this thing. Though I did hear that it sold out within like 6 minutes, and there was credit card issues and this, that, and the other. So it sounds like it was not a good time. However, if you did get up bright and early for this console, hopefully you secured your unit. But yeah, this is kind of the problem when it comes to Analog. I mean, they make fantastic products. There's no doubt about that. But they are a small company, and they're rather infamous for hard-to-get items. Now, just to be optimistic here, the Analog 3D seems to be a really big hit for them, and that could convince Analog to make more units and even special editions similar to how they handled the Analog Pocket. The Analog Pocket got several re-releases with various different colors and things like that, and I could see them doing something similar with the Analog 3D as well. So if you are still interested, all hope isn't lost just yet. Oh, and the Stellar Blade sequel may be going multi-platform, or at least to some extent. Recently, Shift Up claimed that Stellar Blade was one of the most successful PC launches for a PlayStation-published game. They called it the best-selling PlayStation-exclusive launch IP in history, with 192,000 concurrent Steam players for its launch, which is about 2.5 times as much as their previous record being Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, that's a pretty incredible launch, and with that information, it's kind of easy to see why Shift Up is now recruiting with multi-platform in mind. This is what they said. Shift Up's next installment, Stellar Blade, currently in development, is a AAA multi-platform action game that expands upon the worldview of the company's global hit Stellar Blade. Aiming for release on various platforms, including consoles and PC, the game will inherit the original IP's stylish action and narrative-driven worldview from its predecessor, delivering an evolved action experience. So, I mean, if anything else, a day one PC launch for Stellar Blade 2 seems almost confirmed by this point. It seems like they are doing away with its staggered release, which is absolutely the correct decision for them, especially considering just how successful it was on PC. But the one big question that fans are still asking is, what exactly do they mean by consoles as in plural? Are they only talking about PlayStation consoles, aka the PlayStation 5, the PS5 Pro, and eventually PlayStation 6? Or is there a chance that it could also come to other platforms as well, something like Xbox as one such example? And even though we don't have a confirmation for the time being, I do at the very least think that there is a chance that that could happen. And the reason I say that is because Sony doesn't actually own the Stellar Blade IP. Now, they are the publisher for the first game, but they're not the owner of the franchise. So the answer to this question entirely depends on if Sony is publishing the sequel as well, and as of right now, we just don't have that answer. What I will say, though, is that I definitely think that it's possible that it could be completely multi-platform, but either which way, I really did enjoy the first game, and I'm really glad to hear that it's been a big success. Now, we also got some news for the often rumored Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake. Now, I know a lot of people view the original as one of the best installments for the Assassin's Creed series, and if you're among that crowd, Well, then you might have some good news for the soonest future. According to a new report by Insider Gaming, they said that Insider Gaming has learned that the yet unannounced Assassin's Creed Remake is set to launch before March 31st of 2026. The first official sign of the announcement came during today's delayed Ubisoft earnings, where one unannounced game is set to be released before the end of the company's fiscal year, which ends on March 31st. It's the only game on the slate not uncovered and is flanked by the likes of Rainbow Six Mobile, The Division Resurgence, and Anno 117 Pax Romana. Insider Gaming understands that this blanked-out game is the yet-to-be-announced Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake, which is scheduled to release the week of March 23rd. So, I mean, it sounds like they might be cutting it a tad close to the end of their fiscal year. But if this is true, then we should get a reveal very, very soon. In fact, it's already been rumored that Ubisoft will make an appearance at this year's Game Awards. It's believed they will be there to re-reveal Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time Remake. And I mean, who knows? Maybe the Black Flag Remake as well. And I mean, if they do, I understand that modern-day Ubisoft doesn't exactly have the best reputation in the world, but I think these two games could garner a lot of hype online. I want to hear from you all, though. How do you feel about a Black Flag remake before an Assassin's Creed 2 remake? Now, in my opinion, the Ezio trilogy to this day is still peak Assassin's Creed, but at the same time, I do understand that Black Flag has a lot of fans as well. There's no complaints here from me, but I want to hear from you all. Would you have preferred an Assassin's Creed 2 remake, or are you glad that they went with Black Flag? All right, now let's just go and get into what's happening with game prices, and I understand. We're all sick of it by this point. You know, 5 years ago, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 launched for $500 a piece. And yet here we are, and they just keep going up in price, which is unprecedented for a console in its 5th year going on 6. You know, it's usually about this time when price goes down, but no, not for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. Instead, they've been trending in the wrong direction. And unfortunately, it sounds like things could get even worse in the rather imminent future for Xbox and potentially for other platforms like PlayStation down the road as well. And again, this isn't because inflation, tariffs, or overly inflated budgets, but rather this is because of DRAM prices have been skyrocketing. I mean, if you look online right now for DDR5 RAM, you'll notice that it is significantly more expensive than what it was just 2 months ago. Back in September, you might have paid, let's say, $150 for 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. But now, for the same exact kit, they're going north of $300, and in some cases, even more than that. It all really just depends on what you're looking for, but you might be wondering, what in the world is happening, and why is there this sudden, rapid increase for DRAM? And to put it short, it's because of AI. Yeah, you might not have expected that, but this report explains it pretty well. This is from Tom's Hardware, and they said that DRAM prices are continuing to skyrocket thanks to exorbitant demands from the AI industry. CTEE reports that DRAM contract prices have increased by a whopping 171.8% year over year as of Q3 2025. In fact, DRAM prices have risen to the point that they are now outpacing the recent price increases of gold. The problem for consumers is that memory manufacturers are shifting production prioritization toward data center-focused memory types and producing less consumer-focused DDR5 memory as a result. So in other words, demand is high, but supply is low because the priority right now is on all of the companies that are ramping up for the future of AI with their AI data centers. You know, right now the tech industry is investing a crazy amount of money into AI data centers. And what that means for consoles that use DRAM is that if a company didn't prepare ahead of time, well, that now means that they'll have to pay that increased contract to get more DRAM for their products. Well, the thing about that is that according to Moore's Law is dead, he heard that Microsoft did not prepare. His exact quote reads, "Microsoft didn't plan ahead at all, apparently. If you still want an Xbox for some reason at their current pricing, those prices could go up soon, or supply could just entirely dry up because multiple sources of mine have apparently been warned by sales reps at Microsoft that this is going to affect the Xbox Series consoles very, very soon, sooner rather than later. Now, to be completely fair, this is hearsay for the time being, but I will say that I do think that this is believable because Microsoft hasn't exactly put a lot of emphasis on their Xbox Series consoles here in the past few years. As we all know, Xbox hardware has been on a decline for a few years now, and I think it's kind of gotten to the point that they're ordering a very low amount of consoles until their next generation hits. So realistically, they might not have a lot of product on hand because they haven't been expecting a lot of units to sell. They've just been ordering enough to supply a little bit of demand. Now, as for PlayStation, though, Moore's Law did say that from what he's heard, Sony planned ahead, bought up gobs of RAM near the bottom of the pricing, and thus they should be fine for months. They have plenty of GDDR6, at least that's what I'm told. Prices could go up eventually, I could see that happening next year, but there is a reason Sony is cutting PlayStation 5 pricing for Black Friday. They aren't just doing this as some extreme move or because sales are bad. They can afford to do it. Apparently, they are not worried about the RAM shortage, at least in the short to midterm. And that part is important to keep in mind. He said point blank, I could see price increases for the PlayStation 5 next year. And that's because even though Sony seemingly stockpiled some RAM ahead of time, enough for them not to worry for the short to midterm, but unless this situation gets solved sometime soon, this same problem will eventually impact them when their stockpile dries up. And one thing is for certain, the AI boom, it's not going away anytime soon. Companies are ramping up their AI data centers like crazy right now. They are investing a ton of money into those things, and how long that will last and how long it will impact DRAM supply remains to be seen. Maybe things will get better, and hopefully sooner rather than later, but there's also a chance that this could be a problem for the foreseeable future, and maybe even possibly for the next few years, considering just how much these companies are ramping up for an AI-driven future. So, we'll see what happens with all this, but console prices could very well be impacted and go up yet again because of this, possibly with Xbox being the first domino. Let me know what you all think about this report, though. Do you believe that prices will go up again because of the price increase in DRAM as of recent? And how are you feeling about console prices as of this moment? Have they just gotten too expensive by this point? Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.